With no further ado, I want to bring on stage someone who is going to tell you an amazing story about a 20-year friendship in the Big Brother, Big Sister program. I want to welcome Colin Mahoney.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you to all of you guys for amazing support you've been giving us in this organization. As Bill said, I'm actually one of the most recent board members to join Big Brothers Big Sisters of Massachusetts Bay, but I've actually been involved with this organization for actually a pretty long time as a big brother. And what I want to talk to you about tonight is a couple stories about what this organization stands for and what it's like to be a big brother and a little brother. I actually got involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters through two mentors of mine, Howard and Carol Anderson. And at the time, Carol was very involved with the Haley and Mather Elementary Schools, which are two elementary schools, public Boston public schools. And in particular, they were involved in a reading recovery program. And this program was oriented towards first grade children who were struggling a little bit with reading at that level. And the first thing that Carol noticed when she met so many of these children, particularly the young boys, is that a lot of these children were actually lacking mentors. And a lot of these young boys were lacking male role models in their lives. And so Carol, being who she is, quite an amazing person, said, I've got the perfect solution. I'm going to go to Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I'm going to find big brother mentors for these kids. And like so many people, what happened after that was Carol went to the organization and said, I've got great news. I've got 15 young boys who really need mentors. And unfortunately, what Carol heard is what so many little sisters and little brothers still hear, which is there's actually a waiting list. And at the time, that waiting list was 2 years. So Carol being Carol and Howard being Howard weren't going to settle for it. What they did was they said, we're going to find 15 great guys. So Howard came to me and he said, hey, you're a great guy. You got to be a mentor. Now, truth be told, Howard was actually the CEO of my company at the time. So there was a certain level of persuasion that happened there. And it's actually a level of persuasion that I still use today in my current role. But nonetheless, she recruited and Howard recruited a bunch of us, and together we all actually became big brothers. Now, just so you know, I was all in for this. I figured I could do this. I have a big brother. I have a younger sister. I've had great mentors in my life, my parents, my sister, my brother, so many other people, and I've been really fortunate, and it's time to give back. On the drive down to meet Darius for the first time, and he was 8 years old at the time, which ironically happens to be right around the same age as my daughters are now, I got really nervous. Is he going to like me? Am I going to be able to answer his questions? Am I going to be able to make time for him in my professional career? The organization does a phenomenal job of matching kids and their bigs with similar personalities and such. But I remember the day that I met Darius like it was yesterday. I walked in, there was a match advocate from the organization. I met Darius' mom, Wendy, his sister, Bianca. His father wasn't in the cards. And the first thing I remember about Darius is he just had this electric smile. Absolutely a 3/4 full kind of guy, my kind of guy. And he lived in a place called Georgetown. My alma mater is Georgetown. I felt like, well, yeah, all right, Hoya Saxa. So I felt like, you know what, maybe this is destiny. Although Darius's Georgetown was a little bit different than my Georgetown. This housing development was nice, a lot of subsidized housing, but definitely a little different than what I was used to. Nonetheless, I drove down, I met Darius, saw that smile. He came outside, we threw a ball. We didn't talk too much, but you could tell, like, it was cool. That was actually about 18 years ago, almost 20 years ago. One of the things you hear about all the time as a big, and there are many bigs in this room, is you get more out of the program than the little. And I can absolutely tell you with certainty that is the case. Every single place we would go, and thanks to so many of our supporters who are here tonight, we got amazing opportunities to do things. We got to go to Fenway Park and watch the Red Sox. We got to go farming in Vermont. We got to make maple syrup in Vermont. Tour aircraft carriers. Even if it was just going to the library, wherever we were, people would look at us and they kind of had a twinkle in their eye, and we'd often get a question, you know, are you a big brother? And, you know, we would say, yeah, proudly, yeah. And as Darius got older, he would often lead with it and say, this is my big. We would often explain that we were brothers from another mother, and people really liked that. But even in some other scenarios, everybody that would meet us would just say, you know, I really love this program, and I just love seeing it. We even got to meet Coach Belichick, and if everybody wants to cheer for the Patriots right now, we can do that. All right. Yeah. You know, I had this a really interesting encounter. One time I went to Darius's place, and I parked my car pretty much in the same spot that I always park my car. I got out of my car, and there was a guy a couple cars over. He was about 6'5". He had no shirt on, and he probably only had about 3% body fat. And as I got out of my car, I got on the sidewalk, and I'd been Darius's big for maybe a year. And I started walking over towards Darius's place, and this guy put down his sponge in his car, and he stepped right in front of me. And I figured, well, you know, it can happen, you know, and let's just get it over with. And I looked at the guy. I was actually looking at his pecs, which were moving. I was pretty nervous, and he looked at me and he said, "You Darius is big, right?" And at first I didn't understand him, honestly. I was pretty scared. And then I figured out what he said. And sort of in this moment of being unbelievably proud, but unbelievably nervous, I looked up at him and I said, yeah, I'm Darius's big. And this guy got that same twinkle in his eye that all these other people have. And he said to me, around here, you all right? You dig? Hell yeah, Doug. Like, you don't have to tell me twice. And I can tell you, from that time on, I never had a problem in that neighborhood. In fact, I would pick up Darius, and other kids would run around and go, yo, big, yo, big. And I always felt like I wish I could be bigs to all these kids because they could all use this type of mentorship and this type of friendship. And there's so many bigs that could use it as well. And you know what? Seeing Darius's mom, Wendy, who is unbelievable. You know, the parents and guardians of littles are so critical to the success. Parents of the bigs are important too, and you'll hear about that in a second. But it's such an amazing program. I was so honored this spring, to be asked by Wendy and Mark and Jeff and Dave to join the board. It's an organization I've been involved with for a while. I've seen firsthand the difference it can make. Actually, a few weeks before, even though Darius and I, you know, we stay in touch. We officially graduated the program when he graduated high school, but of course stayed in touch. He is 26 years old today, by the way. He was over our house, not his birthday, sorry, close to 26. But he was over our house, and it was right around the time I joined the board. And then about a week later, I got a voicemail from Darius, and I could barely understand the voicemail. Darius had been in an awful motorcycle accident. He was in critical condition. He had broken his pelvis, he'd broken his leg and broken his foot, and he was fighting pneumonia. I was actually on a trip. The first thing I did was I actually called my mom, and my mom showed up to the hospital to be his advocate. And for those of you who've never met my mom, like, this hospital had no idea what it was in for. To the point where when I did get back from the trip and visited Darius, he and his friends were like, yo, Ma was off the hook. But you know what? Sometimes you just need that. And a lot of us are so lucky to get that in our upbringing with our friends, with our mentors. But this program is all about helping those that don't get that every day. And I can tell you, when you see the difference it makes, It absolutely matters. I went and talked to Darius's boss, Andrew. Darius is a security officer. He was promoted to supervisor actually the night before the accident. I was worried about him getting his job back. I went down to see Andrew, his boss, and Andrew came out, and I said, I'm Darius's brother. And he kind of looked at me like I had 3 heads, and I said, well, I'm his brother from another mother. But listen, he's going to get better. He's going into one of the best rehab facilities. This kid's got guts and perseverance, and he is going to come back. He loves this job. And Andrew is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable in supporting him, saying, we all love this kid. He makes such a difference, and he's got such a positive attitude here. We just want him to get better as fast as he can get better. So, you know, it's a couple stories. Thank you for listening. Thank you again for your support. This is an unbelievable organization. I know there's some people in this room tonight who are thinking about being bigs. And what I would say to you is do it. Don't be afraid. Around here, you're all right, and you will be all right, and you will get just as much out of it as the difference that you make to a kid. But the other thing that helps is the sponsorship, and we greatly, greatly appreciate that. What I want to do right now is ask my, he actually looks a lot like my big brother now, but I'd like to ask Darius to join me up here on the stage tonight. Thank you.